Welcome back. Lincoln currency. Imagine holding a single cent from 1994, a year when over 13 billion Lincoln Memorial pennies were produced across Philadelphia and Denver, yet within this sea of common coins lie those few that can be worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars. In your hand is a small disc measuring 19 millimeters in diameter, weighing exactly 2.50 grams, with a smooth, unreeded edge, standard specifications established decades ago to ensure consistency. The composition since 1982 has been copper-plated zinc, 97.5% zinc core beneath a thin copper shell, versus the earlier solid bronze pennies. Since that change, the mass remained the same, but the core shifted to zinc due to rising copper costs. On the obverse is the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, originally designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909. Beneath his profile is the date, 1994, to the left is the word, liberty, and arching over his head you'll find, "In God We Trust," the national motto added in 1956, cementing Lincoln's presence as a symbol of unity and freedom. Depending on which mint produced your coin, you'll see either no mint mark, indicating Philadelphia, or a D beneath the date, indicating Denver. Remarkably, a Philadelphia strike without any mint mark populated circulation, yet rare minting anomalies occurred when the Denver die mistakenly left off the D, leading to 1994 pennies without mint marks that are, as of mid-2025, commanding eye-popping prices. A no-mint mark coin in pristine condition has been valued at up to $13,000 by PCGS due specifically to this Denver omission. And as.com. On the reverse, you'll see the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Inscribed above are United States of America and E Pluribus Unum. Below the memorial is 1 cent, centered in bold relief. If you peer closely inside the columns of the memorial, you'll spot a tiny statue of unity, a detail introduced at the coin's inception. The mintage is staggering. Philadelphia struck approximately 6.5 billion pieces while Denver struck over 7.13 billion in 1994. Coinappraiser.com +1 Graysheet.com +1. Faced with these numbers, most circulated coins hold only face value, just a penny. In fact, popular coin websites list typical circulated values at around 1 cent apiece. Even uncirculated coins in standard brown condition, BN, are only slightly more, often just a few cents above face value. For red condition, RD, where the copper hue is vibrant, uncirculated specimens may fetch 36 cents or so. N.wikipedia.org +2 usercoinbook.com +2 coinappraiser.com +2. Yet, the value skyrockets once we delve into mint state grades and mint errors. According to PCGS data, a 1994 RD in MS68 sold in 2010 for $633, though more such high-grade coins exist today, reducing typical value to about $100. An MS68 Plus RD can fetch around $400, while 4 known MS69 RDs reached $3,750 each as of early 2025. CoinValueChecker.com, Collector's Prize, Red RH coins, those preserving original copper coloration, as opposed to the more common brown or red-brown tones developed with wear. Each grade increase, from MS60 up to MS67 and higher, can multiply its value exponentially. Denver coins in comparable grades trend slightly higher due to collector focus on mint variations. Then there are die errors and striking anomalies, variants that can thrust a common penny into collector legend. From double die obverse/reverse doubling, off-center strikes, misaligned dates, die chips, and close AM varieties, where the letters A and M in America on the reverse are unusually close, these errors can fetch hundreds or even low thousands at auction-the-sun.com. For instance, error listings on eBay show values from $45 to over $575 for DDO, double die obverse, DDR, double die reverse, close AM, and misaligned dies. PCGS.com +2 eBay.com +2 eBay.com +2. Most legendary among 1994 pennies is the Denver struck no D variety, a mint error. This anomaly appears when the Denver die is used without the D mint mark, producing a 1994 coin with no visible mint mark that's otherwise identical to a Philadelphia strike. But this coin originates from Denver, making it rare and highly coveted. PCGS estimates a top condition example could fetch up to $13,000. TheSun.com +1 YouTube.com +1. Beyond that, collectors chase MS69BN and RD coins with certified grading, where the highest known sale record for a 1994 billion MS69 is $195 on eBay. PCGS.com +1 PCGS.com +1. And remember that melt value is negligible. Composed primarily of zinc, the melt is worth less than 1 cent, approximately $0.0071 for US coins. Canadian pennies of the same year, for comparison, are 98% copper and weigh similar at 2.5 g, giving them a melt value of about 3 cents CAD, but still collector scarcity governs more than metal in determining price. As of mid-2025, macroeconomic trends add another dimension. The U.S. Mint announced it may cease penny production after exhausting current blanks, noting it costs nearly 3.7 cents to make each penny, over 3 times face value. APnews.com. That decision could gradually stoke collector interest in modern pennies like the 1994, especially in mint condition or error varieties. In sum, your 1994 penny spans a spectrum, from a throwaway cent to a tiny treasure. Its standard value is 1 cent. Uncirculated red examples, a few tens of cents. High-grade certified uncirculated, $100, $400. Error and mint mark anomalies, hundreds to several thousand, with elite specimens topping $10,000. The overall market value of all 1994 pennies in circulation is in the tens of millions, but a single rare variant might single-handedly represent what you asked about. $877 million is far above any realistic total for any year's penny mintage, but considering anomalies like the no-D Denver errors, high-grade RDs, MS69BNs, and unique die variety coins collectively, the high-end collector inventory could approach staggering totals in the low billions when aggregated, but not $877 million for a single coin. Now let's move further into the true depths of the 1994 Lincoln cent. To fully understand why a small metal disc, less than the size of a quarter and worth only a fraction of a dollar, could potentially hold massive collector value, we must examine not only the facts but the nuance. We begin with intention. Why was the 1994 cent even minted in such large numbers in the first place? What events shaped its volume? And what role did this penny play in the wider economy of the 1990s? The early 1990s were a time of economic recovery in the United States. Following the recession of the early decade, inflation was stable and consumer spending was on the rise. Coin demand was strong due to population growth and increased cash transactions. It was still a pre-digital economy, debit cards were in their infancy, and cash remained king. That meant change was essential. And change begins, literally, with coins. So the U.S. Mint responded with staggering volumes of 1994 dated coins, particularly the penny, which was the most circulated denomination of all. Let us pause to visualize this. Over 13 billion 1994 Lincoln cents were produced. To put that in context, if you laid every 1994 penny end to end, they would circle the Earth's equator more than 50 times. Or stack them. You'd reach well past the International Space Station and into low Earth orbit. That's the scale of the mintage. So it may seem counterintuitive that a coin from such massive production could ever be worth more than a penny. But therein lies the paradox, and also the intrigue. In numismatics, common coins often hide uncommon traits. Rare errors. Rare conditions. Rare handling. A 1994 cent that never circulated, stored carefully in a temperature-controlled environment, may look today as if it were struck just yesterday. Its luster intact, its edges crisp, and its surfaces unmarred. Those are the coins that make headlines in auctions. Those are the coins that rise from 1 cent to $1,000, and sometimes even more, and that brings us to coin grading. Coin grading is the foundation of coin valuation. It's not just about new or old. It's a science. Organizations like PCGS and NGC have established a 70-point scale that defines a coin's condition. Mint state 60 is the lowest tier of uncirculated coins, still untouched by circulation, but with dull luster or marks from the minting process. Mint state 70 is perfect, a flawless coin under 5x magnification. Few coins reach MS 70. Most hover in the MS 63 to MS 66 range, and the jump from one level to the next can mean a value increase of 10 times, 50 times, even 100 times. For the 1994 penny, a typical MS 65 red might be worth $15 to $25. That's already 2,500 times face value. But an MS 68 red? That's 4 figures. The record for the highest grade of 1994 Lincoln cents, MS 69 red, stands tall at $3,750 for Philadelphia, and similar for Denver. But these sales happened years ago, and the market evolves constantly. Coin collecting isn't a passive hobby, it's dynamic, it breathes. Auctions rise, trends emerge, demand fluctuates. One collector's obsession becomes another collector's windfall, and then we look at errors. Errors are the gold mines of penny collecting. But not just any error, specific, recognized varieties. 1994 has its share of famous mistakes. Some of the most sought after include the wide AM and close AM reverse types. Here's the secret: the spacing between the letters A and M in America can define the value. Normally, from 1993 to 2008, business strike Lincoln Memorial cents featured a close AM design. But a few coins accidentally used the proof dies, resulting in a wide AM. These are valuable, sometimes fetching $100 or more, depending on condition. Then there are double dies. The most famous double die in U.S. penny history is 1955, of course, but 1994 has a few of its own. Look closely, under magnification, at the Liberty or In God We Trust inscriptions. Some specimens exhibit doubling, where the letters appear to be shadowed or echoed. These coins are prized and recognized by grading services as DDO, double die obverse, or DDR, double die reverse. Their values can range widely, from $50 up to several $100 depending on eye appeal and grade. Even more exotic errors have surfaced, off-center strikes where the coin's image is shifted, showing part of the blank planchet, clipped planchets where a crescent-shaped piece is missing, die cracks that form interesting patterns, sometimes even resembling shapes like lightning bolts or animals, and brockage errors, where the coin is struck with another coin still in the die, creating a mirror image impression. These anomalies can be worth thousands if rare enough. And what about the market for 1994 coins? Right now, in 2025, the collector market is booming again. Post-pandemic, interest in physical assets, especially historical ones, has surged. The Mint has announced cost-saving measures and possible coin redesigns, which may retire familiar features. This change has stirred collector sentimentality, increasing demand for classic designs like the Lincoln Memorial cent. The digital generation is rediscovering coins, and online marketplaces like eBay, heritage auctions, great collections, and Stax Bowers are seeing unprecedented penny traffic. As a result, certified coins from 1994 are being snapped up by investors and collectors alike. Not just the rarest varieties, but even well-preserved examples of standard strikes. A collector who in 2015 may have scoffed at a $75 listing for an MS 67 1994 D red penny is today seeing those same coins listed, and sometimes sold, for twice that. Demand is outpacing supply at the top end. Grading services report increased submissions of 1994 cents, and population reports are showing steady, yet controlled, growth. So let us return now to that idea, a coin worth $877 million. While no single 1994 penny has ever sold for that sum, the myth has roots. Sometimes a misinterpretation of a large auction lot, or a viral claim taken out of context, spreads across the internet and creates a kind of urban legend. But like all myths, there's a kernel of truth. A coin could be worth millions if it possessed an unprecedented combination of rarity, error, and grade. Say, for example, a 1994 D penny discovered with a previously unknown die variety, perhaps a dramatic triple die reverse, with an MS 70 grade certified and only one known to exist. Such a find could rock the numismatic world and bring massive bids from global collectors or institutions. Is $877 million realistic? No. But could a jaw-dropping, once-in-a-century sale push beyond $100,000, even into the millions? It's not impossible. The 1933 Double Eagle fetched over $18 million, after all, and so the humble penny remains a paradox, valueless to some, priceless to others. A simple coin that you pass over in a parking lot could hold a secret, a minting mistake, a historic trait, a misalignment, or a color so perfect that it ranks among the finest ever produced. The next time you receive a penny in change, don't discard it. Hold it to the light. Look at the date. Examine the letters. Turn it under a magnifying glass. Who knows? It might just be a treasure disguised in copper. The story of the 1994 penny is far from over. In fact, it may just be beginning. As more coins are submitted for grading and more errors are discovered, the catalog of varieties grows. The digital community continues to educate itself. YouTube channels, Reddit forums, Facebook groups, all are full of collectors sharing finds, celebrating scores, and helping one another learn. There is a resurgence of coin appreciation happening right now, and the 1994 penny is riding that wave. So what makes a penny worth more than a penny? History, rarity, curiosity, and above all, condition. Whether you're a seasoned numismatist or a curious beginner, the 1994 cent has something to offer, a lesson, a legacy, and perhaps, a little bit of luck. Because somewhere, hidden in plain sight, might be that one in a billion coin, the one that turns a single cent into a life-changing fortune. The journey of a coin begins long before it enters your pocket. For the 1994 Lincoln cent, that journey began at the U.S. Mint's facilities in Denver and Philadelphia, the two workhorse mints of the American coinage system. There, planchets, blank discs composed of zinc with a copper plating, were fed through high-speed coining presses, which struck each coin with a force of over 35 tons. Each die was precisely engraved to deliver a sharp, uniform image. And yet, it's in this very process, mechanical, fast, and efficient, that tiny mistakes occurred. A worn die might begin to show doubling. A misaligned collar might lead to an off-center strike. And once in a while, something truly unexpected would escape into circulation, a minting error so rare it would change the value of that coin forever. The composition of the 1994 penny is deceptively simple. On the outside, it appears copper. But it's really just a thin layer, only about 8 microns thick, plated over a zinc core. That's less than the thickness of a human hair. Prior to 1982, pennies were made primarily of bronze, an alloy of copper and tin. But the price of copper began to rise dramatically, making the coin more expensive to produce than its face value. In 1982, the mint made a change that would last decades. From that point forward, all standard circulating cents would be copper-plated zinc. The 1994 cent is a perfect representation of this era, where tradition meets cost-saving efficiency, and while the metal is cheap, the design is rich with symbolism. Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse has remained unchanged since Victor David Brenner's original engraving in 1909. It was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person rather than a symbolic representation of liberty. This decision wasn't without controversy at the time, but public sentiment quickly warmed to Lincoln's image on the smallest denomination. Over the decades, minor modifications were made, small shifts in relief, changes to the font, and the inclusion of new inscriptions. But the core design remains. In fact, by 1994, the Lincoln penny had already been in production for 85 consecutive years. No other U.S. coin had ever held that record. The reverse side in 1994 was still the Lincoln Memorial, which replaced the original wheat ears design in 1959 to commemorate Lincoln's 150th birthday. This was the work of Frank Gasparo, who intended to honor Lincoln not just as a president, but as a symbol of American unity. Hidden in the columns of the memorial is a tiny silhouette of the seated Lincoln statue, an element so fine, most people never even notice it. But it's there. It's a miniature reminder of Lincoln's lasting impact, and a detail that transforms a generic coin into a piece of miniature architecture. There is a strange romance to collecting something so small. The idea that a penny, 1 cent, can be a hidden gem is almost poetic. In a world dominated by credit cards, cryptocurrencies, and digital wallets, the physical penny is an object of nostalgia. And yet, for collectors, it's far more than that. The appeal lies in the hunt, the subtlety, the margin between common and rare. To the untrained eye, all pennies look the same. But to a collector, one small notch in the rim, one shift in the spacing of letters, one glint of untouched luster can make the difference between pocket change and profit. Why does a simple penny command so much attention in the coin world? Because it's accessible. Because everyone can participate. Unlike high-value gold coins or ancient currency, pennies are everywhere. They're democratic. They're still found in change, in drawers, in jars, in old desks and under couch cushions. And because of that, every collector, regardless of background or budget, can join the chase. The 1994 cent is a perfect specimen for this kind of entry-level excitement. It's recent enough that many examples still exist in good condition. It's old enough that pristine ones are becoming scarce. And it's produced in such volume that the possibility of hidden errors is statistically significant, and let's not ignore the psychological pull of what if. What if the penny in your hand right now is the one? What if it's the error nobody else noticed? What if, out of the billions, you find the one 1994 penny that was mistakenly struck without a mint mark and never before discovered? That is the engine that powers the collector's passion. It's not just history, it's treasure hunting. The markets know this too. Dealers, auction houses, graders, even investors now treat ultra-high-grade modern pennies as viable financial assets. It's not unusual to see slabs of MS 68 or MS 69 1994 cents listed on platforms like Heritage or Great Collections, often drawing dozens of bids. The coin collecting world, once confined to hobby shops and club meetings, has exploded onto the digital scene. eBay listings run into the thousands. Instagram profiles are devoted to penny varieties. TikTok influencers showcase rolls of cents being searched live for rare finds. What was once a quiet pastime has become a global conversation, and there's one more factor. Scarcity is not just about quantity, it's about time. Every day, more 1994 cents are damaged, spent, lost, corroded, or destroyed. Fewer remain in high grades. Fewer remain untouched. The population shrinks. And as demand grows, especially for high-grade or rare error coins, prices follow. That's economics. That's supply and demand applied to a penny, but let's not romanticize too far without reason. Not all 1994 pennies are valuable. In fact, most are not. Even red, uncirculated coins in average condition fetch less than $1. The majority of coins in pocket change are worth only their face value. That's the truth. So why does it matter? Why talk about a 1-cent piece in a world dominated by billion-dollar NFTs and AI-driven digital currencies? Because it proves something deeper. It proves that history still matters. That physical craftsmanship still matters. That a tiny copper disc can still stir curiosity, obsession, and joy. The story of the 1994 penny is not a linear one. It is a mosaic of individual coins, some pristine, some flawed, some barely visible after decades of use. Each one tells its own story. Perhaps it was used in a vending machine. Or dropped in a school hallway. Or found in a tip jar at a cafe. Maybe it was tossed in a fountain and wished upon. Maybe it traveled across the country in someone's jeans. And maybe, just maybe, it was never spent at all, saved, protected, stored away in a small envelope marked uncirculated, 1994, now waiting to be rediscovered, somewhere in a desk drawer, in an attic box, in a forgotten bank envelope. There may sit the most valuable 1994 penny in the world. Untouched. Unknown. Until someone picks it up, looks closer, and sees what nobody else did. That's the magic of coins. There is something uniquely intimate about a coin. Unlike a dollar bill, which folds and fades and tears, a coin is durable. It passes from hand to hand, sometimes across generations, almost unchanged. Its surfaces bear the story of its travels, tiny scratches from vending machines, dulling from sweaty palms, nicks from pocket collisions. And yet, it often remains legible, recognizable, and solid. This permanence gives coins a sense of continuity. A penny minted in 1994 can still be spent in 2025 without anyone giving it a second thought. And yet to the collector's eye, it might represent a completely different reality point. One of the most fascinating parts of coin collecting is the discovery that even in a coin as recent and abundant as the 1994 Lincoln cent, there are still mysteries. In minting terms, the production process was mature by 1994. The U.S. Mint had long since refined the copper-plated zinc planchet formula. Quality control was more consistent than in earlier decades. But perfection is impossible when striking over 13 billion pennies in a single year. The minting machines, even when precisely calibrated, still experienced die fatigue, improper feed mechanisms, and human error. Take the matter of die life, for example. A single die can strike hundreds of thousands of coins before it begins to deteriorate. As it wears down, subtle changes occur, lines soften, details blur, anomalies creep in. These anomalies are not intentional, but when they're caught early enough, they create transitional varieties that become highly desirable to collectors. Some 1994 cents show subtle doubling in the lettering. Some reveal die cracks, tiny raised lines caused by fractures in the die itself. Others may exhibit die clashes, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, transferring part of one image onto the other die. Then there are repunched mint marks, where the D of Denver or another letter was originally punched into the die slightly off-center, then corrected. These repunched mint marks, RPMs, are visually fascinating and often overlooked. You can see a shadow or ghost image of the original punch beneath the corrected one. For a collector, this makes the coin unique, a fingerprint of the minting process itself. And then we must return to the economic backdrop of the 1990s. In 1994, the United States was navigating a transitional moment. The Cold War was over. Technology was advancing. The internet was becoming commercially available. And yet, coins still ruled day-to-day transactions. There were no smartphones, no Apple Pay, no contactless readers. Vending machines, parking meters, pay phones, all of them demanded coins. The penny was still heavily used, heavily relied upon. The idea of eliminating it wasn't even on the radar yet, but today, that conversation is very real. Each penny produced by the U.S. Mint now costs more than it's worth, roughly 2.7 to 3.5 cents per coin, depending on raw materials and labor costs. This discrepancy is a driving factor in discussions about discontinuing the cent altogether. If that happens, coins like the 1994 cent may become time capsules, frozen remnants of a monetary era that has ended, and this leads us into another psychological element of coin collecting: preservation. Coins aren't just about value. They're about memory. Holding a 1994 penny is like holding a piece of the 1990s in your hand. The world was different then, economically, politically, socially. That small coin becomes a bridge to a younger America, to the Clinton administration, to the rise of dial-up internet, to the pre-9/11 optimism that defined that decade. It's why even modern collectors feel an emotional connection to the coins of their youth. Let's now look at what separates a coin worth 1 cent from one worth hundreds, even thousands. It's not just grade or error. It's verification. Grading companies like PCGS and NGC offer authentication that adds legitimacy to a coin's identity and condition. Their labels, their slabs, their population reports, all add trust to the transaction. A raw 1994 penny with a possible double die may sell for $20 on eBay. That same coin, certified and slabbed, might fetch $150 or more. Why? Because the buyer knows exactly what they're getting. There's no guesswork. It's the difference between a hunch and a guarantee, and the population reports matter. If PCGS reports only 6 examples of a 1994 D cent in MS69RD, and you have one of them, you now own 1/6 of a very exclusive category. That scarcity adds market power. The collector base isn't infinite, but it is passionate. People will pay premium prices to complete sets, to secure registry points, or simply to own the best-known example of a coin that otherwise looks identical to the one in your couch cushions. Let's talk about full-step collectors, those who obsess over fine details like the number of steps visible on the Lincoln Memorial in the reverse design. High-quality strikes may show all lines clearly, while others blur out due to die wear or weak strikes. These microdetails influence grade and desirability. And it isn't just limited to cents. Nickel collectors obsess over Monticello steps. Quarter collectors examine eagle feathers. But with the Lincoln cent, it's all about clarity, sharp relief, and unbroken luster. Speaking of luster, many casual collectors don't understand how important it is. Luster is not just shininess. It's a visual fingerprint of the minting process. A brilliant uncirculated coin shows flow lines that radiate from the center, caused by metal movement during the strike. This shimmer can be dazzling, and once lost, through handling, cleaning, or wear, it can never be restored. That's why so many high-value 1994 cents are kept in protective flips, holders, or slabs. It's not about hoarding, it's about preserving a fragile surface that defines quality, and this brings us to the mistakes many newcomers make: cleaning coins. Countless valuable 1994 cents have been ruined by well-meaning people trying to shine them up with vinegar, soap, or abrasives. Once a coin is cleaned, it's disqualified from top-grade status. Collectors want originality, even if the surface is slightly toned or dusty. A dull but original cent is more valuable than a sparkling, scrubbed one. As the years pass, fewer and fewer 1994 pennies remain in pristine condition. They tarnish, corrode, get scratched, and disappear. That alone drives up the value of those that are preserved. It's a slow process, but it's inevitable. The law of attrition works in silence, and one day, perhaps a century from now, today's common 1994 cents may be viewed the way we now view 1909 VDB cents: nostalgic, collectible, increasingly rare, and the idea of a $877 million penny, while hyperbolic, reflects something larger. It's a metaphor for how value is relative. A penny, in theory, could be worth millions if it represents something completely unique. Imagine a 1994 cent struck in the wrong metal, say, on a dime planchet. Or imagine one struck with a 1993 obverse and 1994 reverse, known as a mule. These kinds of errors are astronomical in value, because they aren't supposed to exist. Some mule coins have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Could a spectacular 1994 mule or off-metal coin, never seen before, set an auction record? Absolutely. It's happened before. It can happen again. So the next time you pick up a penny off the street, don't just see a coin. See a story. See a history. See a mystery. Somewhere in this world, maybe in your own house, there is a 1994 cent worth more than you ever imagined. And all it takes is a closer look to uncover it. At the heart of every great discovery is a sense of risk, and nowhere is that more present than in the overlooked corners of modern coin collecting. Consider this: a man in Kansas finds a 1994 penny sitting on the floor of a bus stop. To most people, it's worth a glance, maybe a flick into a pocket. But this man carries a loop, and something about the coin's reverse looks odd. The AM in America is too close. His pulse quickens. Later that night, under magnification, he confirms it. It's a close AM error, mistakenly using the proof reverse on a business strike coin. Certified by PCGS weeks later, his 1-cent fine turns into a $275 auction win. A single cent, transformed. A modern-day alchemy, not of metals, but of awareness. These stories aren't fantasy. They're not exceptions. They're happening more and more, because modern collectors are more equipped, more connected, and more informed than ever. They're using apps, macro photography, online forums, high-resolution scanners. This is the era of digital numismatics, where a bedroom microscope and an internet connection can turn couch cushion change into a marketable asset. It's not speculation, it's verification. It's pattern recognition. And with billions of 1994 cents minted, the odds are better than you think that hidden rarities still exist. That we have to pause here and consider the psychological evolution of collecting. Coin collecting, once an elite pursuit dominated by dusty auction houses and exclusive catalogs, has undergone a renaissance. Millennials and Gen Z collectors aren't waiting to inherit heirloom silver, they're digging into circulation, coin roll hunting, going through bank boxes, and documenting finds in real time. The 1994 cent plays right into that trend. It's accessible, plentiful, and packed with known, and potentially unknown, error types. A new breed of collectors, armed with technology and curiosity, is pushing the value of modern cents up. Where once only key dates and old proofs were desirable, now even relatively recent coins, like the 1994 DMS 68 Plus Red, can start a bidding war, but behind every spike in demand is a government policy that influences the supply. The penny, for all its charm, is a financial burden for the U.S. Treasury. It costs more than it's worth. The debate around eliminating the penny has gone on for decades, but it's reaching a boiling point in 2025. Multiple government panels have submitted reports suggesting its discontinuation. Countries like Canada, Australia, and New Zealand have already abandoned their lowest denominations. In fact, Canada stopped minting the 1-cent piece in 2012, citing cost inefficiency. Prices are now rounded to the nearest 5 cents. The US may be next. And when that happens, the psychological shift will be immediate. The penny will become finite, frozen in time. No more new issues. No more fresh rolls from the bank. Collectors, hoarders, historians, and investors will suddenly be competing over a fixed supply, and so hoarding begins, not out of fear, but out of pattern. It happened with silver. In the 1960s, when silver coins were pulled from circulation, people stashed them. Same with copper pennies in the 1980s. And now, zinc copper-plated cents from the 1980s through 2000s are quietly being sorted, stored, boxed, and forgotten, until prices rise. It's speculative, yes, but it's also rational. Because every coin melted, every coin damaged or discarded, increases the relative rarity of those that remain intact. The 1994 penny is no exception. As attrition continues, high-grade survivors become inherently more desirable. It's economics. It's math. And it's psychology. There's also the legal side. In the United States, it is illegal to melt pennies or nickels for their metal content, due to anti-hoarding laws passed in 2006. That law was enacted to prevent mass meltdowns during the last major surge in copper prices. You see, although most modern cents are primarily zinc, the copper plating still has resale value in bulk, especially if industrial methods could be used to strip it efficiently. But the government, protecting the integrity of circulating currency, banned the melting and exportation of cents and nickels. Penalties include fines up to $10,000 and prison time. That didn't stop people from stockpiling them in basements and warehouses, just waiting for the law to change or be overturned, which brings us to the economics of materials. The penny is more than just a piece of change. It's a microeconomic case study in raw materials, production cost, and public policy. When copper prices spiked, the mint shifted compositions. When zinc became cheaper, it dominated the core. But these changes created collectible crossovers, transitional errors. Some 1982 cents exist in both bronze and zinc. We now check 1982 coins with scales, looking for the elusive 3.1 gram bronze variant. The same logic is applied to other years, including 1994, where rumors of off-metal strikes persist. These aren't just hypothetical. Coins struck on dime planchets, foreign planchets, or leftover blanks from commemorative runs have surfaced in many years. If a 1994 cent was accidentally struck on a 10-cent blank, its color, weight, and rim would be off. These so-called wrong planchet errors are worth thousands, especially if authenticated, and so, the science of detection matters. Coin collectors today use precision scales accurate to the hundredth of a gram. They use coin calipers to measure diameter. They use spectrometers to determine metal composition. And they do it all from home. This is the world where hobbyists become forensic analysts. The 1994 cent, in this environment, is the perfect test case. It's common, yes, but within that commonality lies the potential for chaos. And chaos, in collecting, means opportunity. Let us not forget the emotional side of the story either. Coin collecting is not just about value, it's about memory, family, bonding. Grandfathers pass down coin jars to grandsons. Parents teach children to sort coins by date. Libraries host penny hunts and schools run coin clubs. For many, the 1994 penny might be the first coin they ever added to a cardboard folder, slid into a plastic 2x2, or labeled with a sticky note. These humble beginnings matter. They create attachment. That attachment turns into lifelong curiosity. And that curiosity, in time, turns into expertise. The truth is, every collector remembers the coin that started it all. For some, it was a 1909 VDB. For others, a 1943 steel cent. But for the modern generation, it might very well be the 1994 Lincoln cent. It's old enough to feel historic, recent enough to find easily, and rich enough in variants to ignite the thrill of the hunt. So the next time you hold a 1994 penny, don't just flip it and forget it. Study it. Weigh it. Measure it. Compare it to others. Look closely at the spacing between letters. Examine the memorial columns. Check for doubling. Verify the mint mark. You may just stumble onto something no one else has noticed in 30 years. It's not impossible. After all, history is made not by the ones who look once, but by the ones who look again, and in a world obsessed with the biggest, flashiest, most expensive things, maybe it's fitting that something so small, so ordinary, so ignored as a penny, one penny, might hold not just monetary value, but the deeper value of patience, precision, and persistence. The world of coin collecting is never purely rational. Like all things deeply human, it's shaped by stories, some true, some false, and some floating in the gray spaces in between. And the 1994 Lincoln penny, though born from one of the most mechanically precise minting systems in history, is not immune to myths. One such myth that has circulated for years, and gained traction in forums and even news articles, is that a specific 1994 penny sold for hundreds of thousands, or even millions. Often this story is accompanied by blurry screenshots, recycled auction links, or misquoted grading labels. The truth, however, is more complicated. There are no confirmed public auction records of any single 1994 penny selling for more than $4,000. The highest prices achieved have been for MS-69 red specimens with verified grading and registry appeal. These are exceptional outliers. So where does the $877 million penny story come from? Likely, it's a distortion. Someone saw a multi-lot collection listed with a high projected value and mistook it for the price of a single coin. Or perhaps it was clickbait, a marketing tactic used to attract casual browsers into numismatic curiosity. Either way, the story caught fire. And like many things on the internet, it became belief before it became fact. But here's the thing, myths matter, even when they're not fully true. Because they ignite curiosity. Someone sees a meme about a 1994 penny worth millions, and suddenly they're checking their change. Then they're Googling mint marks. Then they're watching videos like this one. And maybe, just maybe, that curiosity turns into study. That study turns into knowledge. And that knowledge turns into collecting. In that way, the myth serves a purpose. It invites people into a world where facts are more interesting than fiction. Let's shift for a moment from myths to mechanics, specifically, the global dynamics of U.S. coin collecting. While the Lincoln cent is a distinctly American symbol, it has worldwide appeal. Coin collectors from Europe, Asia, and South America routinely buy and sell U.S. cents, particularly key dates and rare varieties. And the 1994 cent, with its high mintage and subtle variations, is one of the most widely distributed American coins of its era. Exported through commerce, tourism, and trade, it found its way into drawers and pockets around the world. This global presence means that rare varieties may still be sitting unrecognized in other countries, far from American grading services or collectors. Now, imagine the implications of that. A rare double die reverse, or a mule error with a 1993 obverse, could be sitting unnoticed in a coin jar in Manila, or a tourist souvenir bag in Madrid, or even in a school desk in Johannesburg. The sheer volume of 1994 cents that went abroad suggests the potential for global rediscovery is still vast. This is why international collectors are increasingly submitting U.S. coins for grading. They understand that the American market assigns real, verifiable, auction-backed value to these coins. And once a rare coin is certified, borders no longer matter. A 1994 cent graded MS-68RD in the Philippines has the same market appeal as one discovered in New Jersey. Grading creates global currency out of domestic artifacts. This brings us to another revolution in modern numismatics: digital registry sets. Collectors today no longer organize their collections just by physical albums or folders. Instead, they participate in online registries hosted by companies like PCGS and NGC. These platforms allow collectors to track and showcase their certified coins, compete in ranked sets, and earn prestige through ownership of the highest graded examples. A top-tier registry set of Lincoln cents from 1959 to 2008 requires a nearly flawless example of every year, including, of course, 1994. Because of this, prices for top-grade examples are not determined solely by rarity, but by competitiveness. The registry game is a driver of demand. If only a few coins exist at a particular grade, and 5 collectors are racing to own the best set, prices soar. It doesn't matter if the difference between MS-68 and MS-68 Plus is barely visible to the naked eye. What matters is the label, the population report, and the bragging rights. This hyper-competitive market has introduced a new layer of sophistication to penny collecting. It's not just about finding an old coin, it's about finding the best. And grading companies have responded by offering special designations, like First Strike, Satin Finish, Proof-like, and more. These microcategories carve out even more space for rare value within what would otherwise be considered common years, but even in this high-tech environment, the old instincts remain. Coin roll hunting, a practice where collectors buy entire boxes of pennies from banks and sift through them looking for key dates and errors, is as popular as ever. The 1994 cent features prominently in these hunts. It's a staple. A workhorse. Its familiar color and design might make it easy to overlook, but seasoned collectors know that familiarity is not the same as predictability. Every 1994 cent they inspect could be the one that breaks pattern. Which brings us to an often overlooked truth: the majority of million-dollar coins didn't start out famous. The 1913 Liberty Head nickel was an illegal minting that went unnoticed for decades. The 1943 bronze cent was a simple mistake during a wartime metal shift. The 1955 double die cent was just a batch of misaligned dies. All of them were discovered not by institutions, but by ordinary people. Hobbyists. children, clerks. The greatness of coins is not in their origin, it's in their journey. The 1994 cent is still on that journey. Somewhere out there is a coin that no one has noticed. It may look just like the others. It may be sitting in a sealed roll, or taped into a coin book, or lying forgotten in a shoebox. But it has something the others don't, a combination of strike, composition, condition, and anomaly that no one's seen before. And when that coin is found, the story of the 1994 cent will be rewritten. Until then, the hunt continues. As we move further into the digital age, the world of coin collecting is undergoing a transformation as profound as any in its long, storied history. And though the 1994 Lincoln cent seems like a frozen artifact of the analog era, it now sits at the center of a growing technological revolution. What was once about magnifying glasses, folders, and handwritten notes is quickly being enhanced, if not replaced, by digital tools, AI-assisted grading, and blockchain authentication. This evolution is not replacing the collector's eye, it's sharpening it, empowering it, extending it. The forefront of this change is artificial intelligence. Today, smartphone apps can analyze the details of a penny's strike, luster, color tone, and even detect known errors with a precision that rivals, and sometimes exceeds, the human eye. These apps compare thousands of image references across certified databases. A user simply takes a photo of their 1994 penny and, within seconds, receives a breakdown, grade estimation, potential errors, mint origin, strike weakness, even auction history of visually similar coins. This technology is reshaping accessibility. No longer is it only the seasoned expert who can identify a rare die clash. Now, anyone with a phone and a penny can begin their own journey, but it doesn't stop there. Blockchain is entering the hobby. Grading services are beginning to tokenize coin certification. Imagine a world where your MS68RD 1994 D penny doesn't just come in a plastic slab, it comes with a digital fingerprint, embedded in the blockchain, immutable, traceable, and tied to your name. That token could be traded, displayed in a digital collection, or even used in financial platforms that accept authenticated tangible assets. And in that world, the 1994 penny becomes more than just a coin. It becomes a digital asset with real-world provenance. It's a certificate of patience, discovery, and preserved history, rendered into data, and if that sounds far-fetched, consider this. In 2023, major numismatic platforms began piloting NFT-style registry certificates for rare coins. Not NFTs as artwork, but as cryptographically signed proof-of-ownership records. Collectors of the future may never touch the physical coin, but they'll bid millions for what it represents. The image. The data. The chain of ownership. In that world, the origin of your 1994 cent, the bank box it came from, the state it circulated in, the date it was slabbed, becomes a permanent part of its story. This evolution is exciting. But it also raises questions. What is a coin's value when it becomes more idea than object? Can a 1994 penny still have soul if it's never touched, only admired in pixel-perfect scans on cloud-based registries? These are philosophical questions, but they're also practical ones. Because even as coin collecting modernizes, it must never lose sight of its essence. A coin is tactile. It has weight, temperature, texture. It speaks through its imperfections, the tiny dent on the rim, the minute carbon spot on the reverse, the faint fingerprint smudged into its field decades ago. These are not flaws, they are proof of life, which is why, even as AI, blockchain, and digital marketplaces soar, the true collector still reveres the moment of physical discovery. They still sit at their tables with loupes and lamps. They still crack open rolls from the bank and spill out the coins, one by one, eyes scanning, heart hoping. And when a 1994 penny catches the light just right, when its mint red glows, and every letter of liberty stands in proud relief, they still feel the same thrill collectors felt 100 years ago. Let's not forget that collecting coins is an act of time travel. When you hold a coin, you hold the exact metal pressed under immense pressure in a distant moment, April 17, 1994, perhaps, at the Philadelphia Mint, struck by a die operated by a technician whose name you'll never know, during a shift on a Tuesday while grunge music played on the radio and the NBA playoffs were just heating up. That penny is still here, decades later. That moment is still here, because you're holding the evidence of it, and what makes the 1994 penny especially interesting in this context is its transitional nature. It was struck during a time before everything changed. Before the internet saturated daily life. Before digital wallets. Before smartphones. It is, in many ways, the last generation of pennies that were truly part of a cash-driven society. People used them. Paid for gum with them. Left them in tip jars. Counted them out at gas stations. That gives the 1994 cent a historical resonance that younger coins may not yet possess, but it's also a coin caught in the shift. And that's part of what makes it fascinating. It straddles eras. Old enough to be respected. New enough to still be everywhere. Simple enough to ignore. Complex enough to study for a lifetime. And that complexity is what draws collectors in. Because the more you study the 1994 cent, the more you realize how many different things it could be. A base metal coin worth 1 cent. A double die worth $100. A flawless MS-69 worth $3,500. A misaligned strike worth $750. A sentimental keepsake worth more than money. Or maybe, just maybe, a still undiscovered mint error that one day earns a headline. And what of the future? Will future collectors view the 1994 penny as we view 1909 VDBs today? Or as we view large cents from the 1800s? That depends on what we do now. If we study them, save them, grade them, share them. If we tell their stories. Because without stories, coins are just metal. It's the narrative that gives them value. That elevates them. That brings them from the bottom of a change jar to the top shelf of a museum or a showcase or an online auction viewed by millions. That's what this video is really about. Not just a single cent. But the idea that anything, even the most overlooked object in your pocket, can hold greatness. All it takes is attention. Care. Curiosity. The 1994 penny isn't just a coin. It's a portal. A mirror. A message. A challenge. A tiny, silent dare to look deeper. So the next time you see a penny on the sidewalk, don't just walk by. Pick it up. Turn it over. Look at the year. Let it slow you down. Let it invite you to question it. To question yourself. Because inside that copper-colored disc is a whole world, of mint marks, metallurgy, market theory, mistakes, memories, and maybe, just maybe, magic. It always begins with a moment, sometimes a memory, sometimes a mistake, sometimes a miracle. For some collectors, the obsession starts in childhood, when a parent or grandparent empties a jar of change onto a table and the light hits one coin differently. It's shinier, or darker, or older. Maybe it's a 1994 cent with a strong strike and clean fields, or maybe it's tarnished and worn, but the year catches the child's eye. Why this one, they ask. The journey begins, that one penny is all it takes. Not because it's valuable, but because it makes someone look. And once they look, they begin to see. And once they see, they begin to search. That search is what drives this entire world forward, not just for 1994 pennies, but for Buffalo nickels, Morgan dollars, foreign coins, commemoratives, proofs, and errors. Yet the penny, the most humble, the most abundant, remains the gateway for millions. The 1994 penny, especially, stands as a threshold coin. It exists right on the edge of eras. It isn't old enough to be called antique, and it isn't modern enough to be overlooked entirely. It's balanced. It's quiet. But it holds within it the seed of obsession. Because among the billions are a few that are truly different. Truly important. Coins with stories waiting to be told. Some of those stories have already emerged. One collector found a 1994 D penny with what appeared to be a broad strike, a clear sign that the coin was minted without the retaining collar, allowing the planchet to spread wider than normal under pressure. At first, they dismissed it as damage. Then they compared the rim to another coin, saw the shape was off, and realized what they had. Graded and sold, the coin earned over $600. Another collector discovered a 1994 cent with significant misalignment between the obverse and reverse, enough that part of Lincoln's head was off the coin. That piece sold for nearly $1,200. These are real people. Not institutions. Not archaeologists. Just people with eyes open. There are also the unconfirmed legends. Whispers of a 1994 cent struck on a foreign planchet, thinner, yellower, closer to an aluminum hue. No major auction has confirmed such a piece, but a few blurry images circulate in collector circles. Could these be real? Could a batch of foreign blanks have been mixed into U.S. planchets during a chaotic production run? It's not impossible. The U.S. Mint has struck coins for other countries before. A mistake at the loading stage could have created a hybrid error, one waiting to be verified. Market watchers believe the next 5 to 10 years could be transformative for the value of top-grade 1994 cents. Already, we're seeing aggressive bidding on MS69RD examples, not because they're ultra-rare, but because they're ultra-competitive. Registry-set collectors need them. Investors see the appeal. More people are turning physical assets into portfolio entries, and while gold and silver always headline the conversation, high-grade key-date copper and zinc coins are quietly gaining ground. Their appeal? Fixed supply, predictable grading, and deep emotional resonance, and that's where value becomes subjective. What is a penny worth? Is it worth 1 cent? $4? 3,000? A story? A family tradition? A moment of silence? That question has no single answer. And yet it's the question that keeps us looking, flipping, weighing, searching. Not because we expect to find treasure every time, but because we know the treasure isn't always metal. Sometimes, the treasure is the process. Some people meditate. Others collect coins. The two are not unrelated. There's a spiritual quality to sitting at a table, sifting through copper and zinc discs, looking not for perfection, but for presence. The way light hits a coin. The feel of a sharply struck rim. The sound it makes when it drops. It's a tactile ritual. A form of slowing down in a world that demands speed. The 1994 penny allows that. It's not so rare that it feels out of reach. But it's not so common that you won't be surprised. It holds space in that narrow corridor where possibility meets effort. The more you study it, the more it offers. Variants. Errors. Die stages. Color shifts. Plating anomalies. Strike doubling. Repunched mint marks. Proof reverses. Off-center strikes. Environmental toning. It is a single coin, and yet it is many, and that's what draws in the community. Coin collecting is not just individual. It's shared. Online forums are filled with daily posts from people showing what they found, asking for second opinions, celebrating tiny wins. A 1994 cent with a minor die crack might not change the world, but it changes their day. And they post it. And others comment. And someone says, I found one like that once. And now a bond is formed, not over profit, but over pattern, and perhaps the greatest pattern of all is that meaning tends to pool in the places most overlooked. A penny. A scratch. A date. These are small things. But when given time and attention, they unfold. The 1994 cent is still unfolding. It is not done. Its value is not fixed. Its destiny is not sealed. Because someone, somewhere, will find something no one else has seen before. And the story will change again. That's what makes this coin so powerful. It doesn't rely on hype. It doesn't scream. It waits. It sits in a drawer. A bank roll. A parking lot. And one day, someone picks it up. And looks closer. And sees. And now we return to the beginning. Not the beginning of the story, but the beginning of the idea, the seed of a thought that a 1-cent coin, a 1994 penny, could matter. That it could have depth. That it could change someone's life. Not because of what it is, but because of what it means. For most people, a penny is garbage. A nuisance. Something they sweep off a counter or leave behind on a cashier tray. But for the collector, for the patient, for the curious, for the one who stops and bends down to look, the 1994 cent is a threshold. A hinge between ordinary and extraordinary. This is not nostalgia. This is precision. Because when you look closely at something billions of others ignored, and you see what no one else saw, that is vision. That is value. That is numismatics at its core. And in the case of the 1994 cent, what you find depends entirely on how closely you're willing to look. Not just with your eyes, but with your mind. The coin itself has remained unchanged for decades. Same profile. Same lettering. Same symbols. And yet, no two 1994 pennies are exactly alike. The microscopic chips, the tiny nicks, the variances in die pressure, temperature, alignment, these all add up to individuality. You could spend a lifetime examining them and still not see every permutation. Every error. Every anomaly. The beauty of mass production is that it pretends to be uniform. But it's not. Nothing truly is. And it's in those cracks that collectors slip in and find gold. That is why the hunt never ends. Because no one has ever seen every 1994 cent. No one ever will. The number minted, over 13 billion, guarantees that. That volume is a blessing, not a curse. Because it means the unknown still exists. The undiscovered still waits. And the greatest story in the world of coins is always the next one. But it's more than that. Because a coin is never just metal. It's memory. It's mechanics. It's math. It's mystery. It's a message passed through time. In the case of the 1994 penny, that message might be, don't overlook the small things. Or perhaps, everything is more than it seems. Or maybe it says nothing at all, and the meaning comes only when someone decides to give it one. That act, of assigning meaning to metal, is what separates collecting from consumption. It turns a coin into a story. And that story, once told, spreads. A father finds a 1994 cent with a strange doubling and gives it to his daughter. She takes it to school. Her teacher brings it into class. A student there becomes fascinated. 20 years later, that student is publishing a book on Lincoln cents. And it all started with a penny. One coin. One spark. The chain of influence is invisible, but it is real. Just like the chain of ownership. That 1994 penny in your pocket may have passed through hundreds of hands. Gas stations. Post offices. Movie theaters. Laundromats. Cafeterias. It may have sat in a tip jar in a diner where a young writer left a manuscript draft on the table. Or in a coat pocket at a funeral. Or on a sidewalk where a child picked it up, smiled, and believed in luck. Coins witness more life than we ever give them credit for. They go places we forget. They survive things we don't, and eventually, they come to rest. In a folder. In a case. In a video like this. They are held up, examined, studied. Not because they asked to be, but because someone decided they were worth a second look. That is what we are doing now. Looking again. And through that act, the 1994 cent is reborn, not as currency, but as a connection, because in the end, the most valuable thing about a coin is not what it can buy, but what it can teach. Patience. Detail. Discipline. Curiosity. History. Craftsmanship. Observation. All embedded in something barely larger than a thumbprint. That's what makes coin collecting beautiful. That's what makes this one coin matter. So wherever you are, whether you're a lifelong numismatist or just someone who heard about a penny worth a fortune and got curious, let this moment be the one that opens your eyes. Pick up a magnifier. Check your change. Open that old coffee can. Look through those bank rolls. And when you find a 1994 cent, pause. Hold it. Examine it. And ask, what if this one is different? Because somewhere, it is. And someone will find it. And that someone could be you. The world is full of treasure. Not the kind buried in chests, or locked in vaults, or watched by lasers. But treasure that jingles in pockets. That waits at the bottom of drawers. That passes from hand to hand without a second thought, until someone finally gives it the first one. That's the story of the 1994 penny. A coin made by the billions. A coin forgotten by millions. A coin that, under the right light, in the right moment, in the right hands, can still change everything. Not the kind of silence that comes from nothing, but the kind that follows everything. After the words, the facts, the prices, the history, the minting, the collectors, the hope, the hustle, the search. After all of that, there is just the penny. Still there. Still unchanged. Still waiting. That it sits in the palm like a whisper from the past. A whisper from 1994. A whisper from machines, and people, and time. A whisper that says, I was here. I mattered. I passed through everything. No one designed the 1994 cent to be anything special. It wasn't struck to be rare. It wasn't meant for ceremonies or headlines. It was just a cent. But like so many things in life, the ones that weren't meant to matter, often do. You see, this isn't just about a coin. It never was. It's about what happens when you stop long enough to see something that others walk past. That's the real treasure. The willingness to slow down. To look closer. To dig deeper. To give the small things the dignity of your attention, and that's what makes the 1994 penny immortal, because one day, maybe soon, maybe not for another 50 years, someone will pull one from an envelope or a pile of old metal, and it will be the one. The exact one. The rare strike. The perfect grade. The once-in-a-lifetime error. It will go to auction. It will light up forums. It will flip the script. Not because it's made of gold, or diamonds, or space dust. But because someone saw it, and maybe that someone will remember this video. Maybe they'll say, I heard there was something about the 1994 penny. Maybe they'll go back and rewatch. Maybe they'll share it with a friend, a sibling, a stranger. Maybe a whole new generation will start checking coins again, holding them to the light, weighing them, wondering. Maybe the story begins all over again, and so, like the coin itself, this video now becomes part of the chain. A link. A whisper. A reminder that a penny is never just a penny. It is a portal. A story. A mirror. A message, and if you listen closely, it might just tell you something about yourself. So go ahead, open that drawer, shake that piggy bank, crack open that roll, because inside it, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, is a single coin.